Good morning. Welcome to Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. Happy New Year, everyone. Well aware I'm way past the cut-off for saying that, but it's our first podcast of the new year. Also marks Paul and mine's 6-year anniversary of doing these podcasts together. Been a long time. Paul is like Buckaroo, has managed to stay the course. Didn't get bored off by me talking about United for 6 years, and it's been 6 tough years.
So you apologise to any viewers out there who don't know what Buckaroo is?
No, I'm assuming my audience are well aware of that. Even as you know, 18 months ago, we hired an intermediate to come into the podcast to make sure that Paul didn't have to suffer me alone. Dave Murphy there in the pod. So happy 1.5 year to Dave joining us, although he's been on a few before as well. All right. Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you very much, Wayne. Forget what happened yesterday, but I was at one of the worst games at the weekend as well. I was at West Ham v. Blimmin', I've forgotten who they're playing now. It was that bad. Blimmin', I've forgotten who the West Ham play. Right?
Was it Palace?
Palace, thank you. I put it so far back in my mind. It's incredible how I forgot about it. It was so cold as well. Nothing worse than being at a bad game of football. Good on the Palace perspective, but it was so cold in that stadium. It was freezing. All I wanted to do was just go home.
Well, for those words, mirror mine. Yesterday at Old Trafford, but I will say as well, it was so cold. I had to buy a hat for the ball lid. It was a bobble hat, so I'm just glad Dave wasn't over for the game because he would have mercilessly ripped into me. Dave Murphy, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Had a great weekend, so eager to get talking about it.
Yeah, all right. So let's go through the actual tragic news of the weekend. Obviously, Denis Law passed away on Saturday. It was Saturday, wasn't it? It was Friday night. He passed away, and it's just this profound sadness that happens when a legend like Denis passes away. Because I mean, he was known as the King of Old Trafford, and the King of the Stretford End, and so was Eric Cantona. But then you think of like players like Denis, and when they pass away, it's like he was the King of Kings. You know what I mean? We're talking like United are lucky. Like I've said this so many times about how if you were to use other people's standards and build a statue outside Old Trafford, like Thierry Henry at Arsenal and other players elsewhere, you wouldn't be able to walk on the forecourt. There'd be that many. Like Paul Parker's record at Manchester United compared to, Thierry Henry's league-winning medals at Arsenal. You've won more medals for United. Do you know what I mean? So I'm talking about genuine historic accomplishments there that United have had. Very lucky to have had so many legends that play for us. But then you have this echelon of, like Sir Bobby Charlton, who we, only recently lost as well, and Denis Law has joined him. Even though, I mean, because of the nature of their illness, they were gone from the public eye for too long a time already. And I think because of that, it enables, when the moment sadly arrives, it enables it to be more of a celebration like it has been. Like it was for Sir Bobby in a way that everything was celebrating his life and accomplishments, and it has been with Denis as well. There was a minute's applause, or so they call it a moment of applause now, don't they? The Piper leading out, and really a lot of people having an opportunity to reflect on Denis Law. I mean, Paul, when we've talked in the past about Denis, I know that your dad was a big United fan when he was a kid, and like he talked about Best Law and Charlton. So that's your introduction to football, isn't it? Really, Denis was like one of those names.
Yeah, it certainly was. That's how I kind of knew it, and it kind of followed me through all the way through, really. And then going to the club where they existed, where they still exist and always will exist at Manchester United, to play for the club, and then to actually meet him quite often, not in the sense of sitting down together and chatting, but just being in that company around the ground, pre-game, post-game events. And you just take so much for granted. You just wish you could go back and grab the moment a little bit more, to be perfectly honest. The same can be said of Nobby Stiles as well. Another one, in that same bit as well. So, I mean, yeah, Denis Law, you know, was a proper footballer, and yes, you see the bits of him, but you see all those good bits about what kind of player he was, and the way that it's showing it now. They've been showing all the little bits of him when he played. He was doing what centre forwards are trying to do today: drop off a bit and try and play people in, and all doing that today, and they're called world class. That's how bad football's falling in certain ways. Can't be so quick to call people world class when they're just in theory doing a job.
Yeah. It's he was definitely. I mean, Paddy Barclay always tells a line about Denis that, you know, he was a striker, but he always imagined himself as a box-to-box midfielder. That's how he thought he was in his career. And if you watch him play, he's certainly got that kind of attitude. Really, like some of the things he did, like an opportunity to go back and look at some of the goals he scored. I mean, he introduced the bicycle kick to Old Trafford. I'm sure if people are watching the highlights of him scoring, he must seem like he scored 50 goals at Selhurst Park against Palace. It always looks like there's always those goals that are shown in there. But he might well have done. I haven't run the numbers through the stats machine for that. But he certainly looked like, you know, he scored so many goals against so many different teams. And one line that's come out a lot, Dave, in the last few days has been like, oh yeah, like Bobby Charlton was the story of Manchester United and George Best is possibly the greatest player of all time, but Denis Law was so many people's heroes, and I think that's the same for your dad, isn't it? That he was that Denis was his hero.
Yeah, he was. He was a massive fan of Denis Law. I mean, my dad grew up in that whole era following Manchester United, but and you know, he's seen many great players come and go at United, but you know, the Lawman, as he calls him, was always his favourite and always will be. You know, we were so lucky to have those three players play at the same time. And as you rightly pointed out, you know, there's different levels to a legend at a club, and Denis was right up there with the top tier legends at Manchester United. It's just sad, you know, that he disappeared from, you know, the public life, you know, for a couple of years now. Never met him, but I understand he was an absolute gentleman. An absolutely phenomenal player on the pitch, and rightly, his statue is obviously with the Trinity outside Old Trafford. There's it was pretty sad. It really was.
Boxer says, morning, Denis Law, a genuine world-class centre forward, a bona fide United legend, terms that are loosely banded around in the modern era for sure. Completely agree with that. I have a couple actually. I think I've met him a couple of times before, and before I worked with him on the film for Too Good to Go Down about the club's relegation. He famously never spoke about the goal that sent United down symbolically. He didn't actually do it. That was part of the point that we wanted to put across in the film, is that, you know, he didn't actually relegate United. And he surprisingly trusted us to talk about it. It was incredible. He was such a nice guy. I remember him being there. I think we had chips on the buffet for lunch, and he was making a point about how, you know, I don't know. I just remember that being a point of a conversation. But he was dead nice. He was so funny even then, and that's like probably maybe a year or two before the diagnosis. And, you know, like I said, he was out of the public eye for a while after that. But some many great videos that are shown around him. But he had this. There was one before the '90 Cup final that's been shown of him as a pundit, which I've retweeted onto my timeline. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look at it. He's talking about how in '63, when we won the cup, inspired by Denis, one of the most important players in United history, by the way, because of that, he's set record signing for United at the time and scoring in the cup final. He said, you know, we went on to win titles and the European Cup after that. And he says in 1990, and you can tell he's almost wishing it like a child. He goes like, you know, well, when we won the cup in 90, we went on, and maybe we will win title after title after title. And we did. You know, and I remember him speaking so fondly about that team in the 90s as well. He was always, you know, you never know with the pundits if they're going to be critical or not when, you know, former players, when they turn into pundits. But he was always, you could tell he was in love with Manchester United. And, yeah, sadly missed. Also a day today when we're on the podcast, it's marking the 31st anniversary of Sir Matt Busby's passing, and obviously that's a tremendously sad day for the club as well. We've talked about that on the podcast before. I just didn't want, you know, today's a day about Denis. I don't want it to go by that we're forgetting Sir Matt as well. Okay, so unfortunately we do have to talk about the game yesterday. Manchester United won, Brighton 3. recent form has been catastrophic. We've lost 4 out of 5 in the league at home, I should say. Everyone was hoping that we'd turn the corner after the draws at Liverpool and Arsenal, de facto win in the cup against Arsenal. But there was that worry, wasn't there? You know, everyone was saying it. Well, we need to see better against Southampton and against Brighton, and we saw a win against Southampton. You have to invest in the hope that every win's a win, but it wasn't convincing. We relied on Ahmad, as we have done throughout the season. He got us out of the hole against a very poor side. It has to be said on Thursday night, but Brighton are not Southampton. They're a very good side. They've outplayed Manchester United. And I was saying in the week, you know, it doesn't matter really what we do against Southampton. I'm more concerned with what we see against Brighton because we've been outplayed by them every single time for maybe the 4 or 5 times. And even as long as we've been doing this podcast, Paul, we've been looking at, you know, Brighton saying they come to Old Trafford and they play better than United. And we're hoping maybe once that'll not be the case. But it was the case yesterday. After 5 minutes, they score a goal that's straight off the playground rather than training pitch. And United have conceded that goal a few times this season. They get themselves back into it. A melee of terrible refereeing again ends with United getting a penalty that they deserve. They don't get a red card. United can't complain about the refereeing in the second half. They can complain about the refereeing. They can't complain about the nature of the result because Brighton just wiped the floor with us and won 3-1 deservedly so. Had a goal disallowed, which might not have been disallowed on another day as well. So, again, we're talking about another catastrophic result and performance. Some big words from Ruben Amorim, which we'll come on to a little bit later. But in terms of the game itself, Paul, it's not good, is it?
No, it's not good. And I just, again, going back in years, but I still think it's quite basic, is that when you're playing at home, anything that the big, when you're at home, you try and make sure that you're in control in the sense that you get everyone off their seats early. You make the big factor of causing a problem to the opponents who have come to your home ground. You get the ball in their half. You force the first corner, maybe the first throw in that area, or if you can do it, you go and score that goal as early as possible. And that happens so many times for me when I played at Old Trafford, and straight away you just those times we go, not going to lose this one. You can look at the opponents; they were drained, kind of looked like on the verge of draining as they were coming out, and they've suddenly found out the reasons why they were virtually being drained of blood because they knew they was coming in to say like this. When I see people trying to play out from deep in their own corner, trying to play little 1-2s to get out, so they can get an applause from the fans and play out nicely, and then get caught in possession, and they allow the away team to get the first shot at goal and earn the first corner, almost force the first corner, then you think to yourself, this isn't right. And it started with Dalot. He started it by what he tried to do in those early minutes of that game. Instead of just looking at it for himself, I'm just going to put this in behind, as far as I can, and in behind that team, so they've got to turn and chase a ball down with someone in behind them and cause a problem. Then that gets the fans going because they just straight away see something and they think, wow, there's energy, there's a passion. You know, something's going to happen today, and it never works that way. And I know people go, but other teams do that as well. Well, I'm not bothered really about other teams. I'm just thinking about a club that's in trouble, a team that's in serious trouble, that are not doing what really common sense should be saying. And I do wonder that a lot of players today don't think for themselves. You don't get those kind of thinking man footballers anymore that look, oh, we're in trouble here, get it out. Oh, we're in trouble here. No, don't do what that we've been trying to do or we're talked about. Just do something different because they're sussed it. Make your own mind up. When they're not thinking man footballers anymore, they're people who are coached in a fashion that they will not turn the page over and try something different. They will stick on that page until they get it right. And that's what football has become now. And that's why teams come to Old Trafford now with no fear, because they know exactly what those people are going to do week in, week out.
Yeah. You can't really disagree with that. Do you have any problem with the way that Amorim set up yesterday? I mean, we can look at the personnel. He's really insisted on this system. What do you think about the application of it?
Well, it's easy to say that he hasn't got the personnel to do it, so he should do something different. Manchester United have been trying to do something now since, well, is it 20? How long, Sir Alex? 21 years? Number 21 years? No, it's not 21. I'm trying to think. It's 2013, 11. Call me, maths is crap. Or maybe it should have been 21 years. I don't know. But 11 years. You know, and all the other formations, systems, whatever you want to, hasn't worked. United have won trophies, but there's been no consistency in anything. Everything's just gone backwards. When anything's good happen, it's gone bosh, backwards again. So for him wanting to stand by what he believes in and what he's done from when he was at Braga, from when he was at Sporting Lisbon, that has propelled him into the position of becoming Manchester United's manager, I would say, why should he change? Why should he adapt? Why can't these multi-millionaire footballers adapt to what someone else wants? And when people keep reading what people saying it ain't working, he's got to stop it, he hasn't got the personnel, they really don't know the personnel. They don't know because they've never been in that situation. A lot of them haven't played football at that level. And when you get some of the pundits coming out and saying it as well, they don't really know. Let's talk about Manchester United because we can earn more money talking about Manchester United than what we can do our own teams. So it's getting a little bit bitter out there about it. It boils down to it is that they're not good enough. That's what he did. He's got a lot of it wrong. When you're playing three at the back, you need at least two of them to be kind of natural athletes in a way. You need that. Doesn't matter. They're going to have to run. They're going to have to be prepared to run channels because teams are going to try and get into them at the channels. That's how you break down teams. You go down in the channels. And when you look at it, whatever way he's centre halves. The one I thought was the quickest got ripped to pieces against Southampton. Yeah. But he's athletic. He's athletic. He's young, and he'll learn about positioning and common sense about when you're going up against people quick. Maguire, he knows he has to play Harry in the middle because he can't run. Run. He's a terrible runner. He looks like a lorry stuck in first gear when he's running. And then you got Martinez, whatever way you want to come in from, whatever part of Argentina you're from. You got him as well, who is not a good athlete. He's good in the four, really solid in the four. You put him on the left, and he'll give you everything he's got. That's the way the Argentinians predominantly made, in that they give you everything. But if you leave him too open, teams get at him in a channel, he will lose his discipline, get cards maybe off. But he's maybe one of the three that you can always trust. There was this big rave about Harry Maguire in the three, and what it boiled down to, everyone raved about him because he sat in the box and headed the balls away. That's all he was doing. Everything was last stitch. He was good at that, but he got found out when teams played football around him. Not Southampton. The game yesterday, Brighton bypassed him, just played around him. The midfield is quite solid. When you look at it as a free, you know the players in there. He's got to play.
Well, no. Did Maguire play yesterday? Did he play? He didn't play yesterday.
He did play yesterday. He played in the middle.
No, it was in defence. I'm trying to remember. It was
Euro was left, Maguire was in the middle, and De Ligt was to the right.
I don't believe so, was he? I didn't. He was probably so honest. I didn't even know he was playing.
Yeah. Harry Maguire started. He didn't start against Southampton because I think they threw up something. He was a bit ill.
He did.
He come off the bench.
He actually did play.
Anyway, man, I'll introduce you. There was a game yesterday at Old Trafford.
Blaine was at the match.
Yeah, Manchester United lost 3-1.
Look, Paul's saying that he was played out of it. That's the point, right? The point is, yeah. All right, I remember seeing him.
That's the reason. Honestly, people put a flyover over him because they just bypassed him. It was as simple as that. They played around him, and there'll be no one talking about this. People are on about extending his contract, doing this. He should be captain. That's how quickly football changes now. People looked at his game, looked at the games. Arsenal, they looked at Liverpool, and he was everything. But it was all last stitch, and we can all be last ditch. We can do it. We can do last ditch. Many a player has been signed by clubs because of certain games, and they come out and they explode. But when you go and look at them in ordinary games, you'll find yourself they're an ordinary player. But I look at midfield, and you look at it, and it's solid in those games against even City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. When you're talking about Ugarte, you're talking about Fernandes, you're looking at Mainu. It works. It works against them. But they're not teams who move the ball quickly and got runners who run on.
Yeah.
Any teams that have got runners and athletic, United can't deal with them because it's the slowest Manchester United team I've ever seen. The quickest player they've got, I think, would be Diallo. Quickest one. We're talking about 4 or 5 yards. If we're talking power, then maybe it might be Dallo with power running off the spot, and that's the difference. There's not enough quick players in that team to frighten anybody. They're never going to run behind. You look at he's trying his best to work between. He was hoping that Xerxes could show what he done off the bench against Southampton and start in a fashion. He was okay. Still better than Højlund in the back. He integrate, he knit things together, but nowhere near good enough. Højlund isn't good enough. The only thing I can say, which I deem as a positive, is that you go out, you get a centre forward in who does everything that the manager wants. So it's one that the manager wants, not the sporting director, not the sporting director's tea maker, not the sporting director's clothes maker, and not the sporting director's person who's going to dress him. You get someone out there the manager likes as a centre forwards, and you tell to Højlund, watch him. Watch that when the ball goes into him, he controls it, but he's got a picture of what's going to happen next. If he doesn't make the pass, he's not going to fall over and look for a foul. And as well, when he runs, he makes a run. If that run is not working, he's going to make another run straight away. Not stand there, put his hands on his hip and say, why? So there's quite a few things that Højlund could learn. So in theory, he is about 7 players short of what he would really like. And there must be a method in the madness, because if he didn't want the job, if he didn't really believe that he deserved to be managing a club of the stature of United, he could have stayed at Sporting Lisbon and gone out and maybe have gone and competed to win another league title and become a hero in his homeland, which we all want. We all want adulation in where we're from, and then you might want to step outside the boundaries and go and grab more on the back of what you've done at home. But he took it on. So when I see that people are talking about him and now, I think he's got to go, I'm thinking, have these people just been born? Have they not known what's happened since 2013? How many managers have been and gone? How many players people have talked about who should be gone, who are still there, who are still nicking a living, or could I be really crude and say poncing a living from the football club? And that's on and off the pitch, by the way, as well. So that's where United are. There's more people who have jumped onto the bus to nick money. It's absolutely incredible. Ronnie Biggs is out there now, maybe trying to dig himself up to come to United and nick some money. It's incredible. And if people out there who don't know, maybe of an age, you might not remember Ronnie Biggs. Look him up.
Yeah. These Ronnie Biggs, by the way, not Ronnie Briggs, the reserve team goalkeeper who played in the late 80s, early 60s. That's your unique United history for you there. Dave, I don't think Paul could have been any more critical there. I think he made a point. I mean, the point about, the centre forward, for example, you don't have to look too far for one who was playing our centre forward yesterday, Danny Welbeck, and you look at him and you think, God, we would have probably, I'm not considering what's been there. If you look at Martial and you look at Højlund and you look at Xerxes, would we have been any worse off keeping Welbeck for the last 10 years? I don't believe so. He would have probably played that role better. Falcao, the other players in there, even Lukaku. You look at Zlatan did well. Apart from that, it's been very, very poor in the centre forward areas. Paul he went through the squad there, eviscerating them. But talk me through your points on yesterday's game. What did you make of it?
I mean, we've come to expect this now, haven't we? I've been very critical of the manager in the past couple of months, past month anyway. And yesterday is just another example of his stubbornness. You know, listen, I get what Paul is saying in regard to these are professional footballers. They should be able to change to a system that the manager wants. But the issue is that, and it showed again yesterday, the system that he uses is not working. It's just not working. And the players are not going to all of a sudden click. He's lost 7 games so far. He's with the club 2 months. This is ridiculous, this is. He's the manager. He knows that those players, everyone can see that those players cannot play that system. So it's on him and his coaching staff to change it up a bit. Because after 2 months, if they still can't play that system, what are we going to do? Stick with that system for the next 3 months and potentially get relegated? Because that's a big problem right now. We're just lucky that the teams below us are absolutely horrendous. But we're not far off, which is mind-blowing to say. And if he doesn't change that system, we're going to get ourselves into a relegation fight. Because if teams like Southampton and Forest and Newcastle and Brighton can come to Old Trafford and hand us our ass, wait till we get to play, you know, some of the so-called bigger teams away from home and even at home. We're going to get annihilated. That system is the problem. The players are part of the problem, but they can't play that system. And he needs to change it. And being stubborn about it doesn't help.
Well, I mean, Paul's point is it's the individuals in the system. And I mean, like, you look, I think there it did well against, he can't contend that it didn't do well against City and Arsenal and Liverpool. But the point he's making about the athleticism of the midfielders and everything like that. So, I mean, that's one of the points I was making to Paul there, is that, you know, do we look at that and we say, like, you know, I've said it to you when we've been going to the matches, Dave, it's like, you know, we can't play 5 defenders in that 5-man defence because he drops into a 5-man. But equally, do the 2 wing backs, whoever we choose, do they have enough discipline to help out? Because yesterday we played the 5, which concerned me anyway, but they were pushing high when we got caught out for the first goal. You know, so swings and roundabouts.
Here's the question that should be asked. And we know that these players can't play that system. So what do? Keep playing it? No, you change the system. You get to the summer, you don't get relegated, and then you try, because he's not going to be able to bring in any players in January that's going to help change that, or that's going to help play that system. We all know that. So why are you persisting with it? That's the big problem here. We're going to see many days like this. We really are. And we've come to bragging about getting a draw at Anfield and beating Arsenal on penalties, you know, and beating City away, which, you know, while we enjoyed that day, it was a one-off win. So there's 3 or 4, you know, there's 3 teams out of the top that we've showed up for. That's what we've become. We've become the clubs that used to show up when Manchester United arrived in town. Mm-hmm. And then back to normal the following week. And we're just getting absolutely spanked. I mean, Wolves and Southampton they both have new managers, but yet both of them technically played us off the park. It's just the tactics are just abysmal right now. We don't have the players to play that system. He needs to change the system. He needs to tweak it. And this shit of 5 defenders at Old Trafford, it's laughable. And we're still getting picked off. Yeah. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yesterday was no different. It really wasn't. As you know, we were at Southampton game together on Thursday night. I couldn't believe we walked out of there with a 3-1 win. We shouldn't have. That game should have been gone and done and dusted. And now we would have been looking at 3 points less and in a real serious relegation. But this is insane. The manager needs to change the system because the players he has can't play it. And that's the only big change you can make right now. He needs to change it. But he said in his press conference yesterday he wasn't going to. This guy will get us relegated.
Right. On that, No, Paul will be dropping out soon, but I've got a next topic that I want to get his thoughts on before he does that. So the big, Amorim said in the press conference, alongside that, reiteration that he's not going to change the system. He said that you want your headlines. Well, here's one. We're the worst Manchester United team in history.
The worst quote since David Moyes, we need to be more like Man City. That's what that was. Terrible thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, I'll come to you, Dave. You've had your say. Paul, what do you make? I mean, as someone who's played for the club, you've been there in rough patches, albeit rough patches comparative to a high achieving side. But you were still there when the club were really struggling at the back end of that 26 years to win the league, and they were dealing with all that pressure. And, we started the Premier League not very well, and it was like, Cantona's a gamble United can't afford to take, and all that kind of guff. But, they are a team that attract hyperbolic statements. We've got a couple of comments here. Worst United team of recent history, I might go with. And worst team statistically since 68 to 72 to 74. Worst statistically since 68. So it's 72, 73, 73, 74, the relegation side, 89, 90, and 24, 25. So in that comparison, what do you make of the statement? Because it's such a big statement.
Oh, it is a big statement, and I think someone, maybe one of his, one of the people above him, might have turned around and said it, and maybe in a way allowed him to say something like that, in that sense, to come out and just say that randomly, not unless he's been really digging deep and doing his homework and having a look at things. I don't know, Wayne, how bad was it in 89, 90? I mean, I was at QPR, so QPR were in a kind of a decent period of that given time. So what were United like in 89, 90? Was the football as bad as what it is now? Compared to what?
There was a Fergie on the brink of the sack kind of thing, right? And but there were the green shoots there. There was something, you could tell it was something worth investing with, but on the pitch, the performances were terrible, and he needed that cup run. Mm. In the same way that we've looked at Van Gaal's cup run, and we've looked at Ten Hag's cup run last season. I would compare that period of Fergie to, not saying that those managers were on the verge of turning it around and having the run that Fergie had, but the kind of football and the need of the salvation of a cup run was exactly the same with Van Gaal and exactly the same with Ten Hag. So it was bad, and there was cynicism from the outside. This is worse. This is worse than anything under Fergie, even the tough times.
Yeah, I mean, that's to be honest, that's what I thought, because I know it's different. The media's changed now, but I cannot remember ever seeing anything out there as what's out there now regarding it, where so many people have got an opinion. It's absolutely incredible how the people they're throwing up to have an opinion on Manchester United and their manager and tactics, formations, or whatever you want to say. So what he's saying really, it's not a lie, it's the truth. And the difference is, you can look at a league position and you'll go, well, they should be doing better than that. And then you look at the team and you say to yourself, oh, I don't know. There's a reason why they're not doing that well, is because of that. And what I understand, again, what Dave is saying, but I look at it that if he was to try and, change formation and maybe go to a flat back four, because it's not five. Ahmed was good yesterday, but it had to be in a negative way because of the team wasn't good enough going forward. Him and Matoma, was having a great battle out there, to be honest. But Matoma won the battle because he had a better team going forwards, so we could join in there. But he doesn't play as a defensive player. He drags people away. And he takes people back the other way, like the way Matoma was dragging him back. He's been doing that of late to other players. But because the team wasn't good enough, he was end up getting dragged back. On the other side, you're playing with a left-footed wing back who is actually a fullback playing on the wrong side, who is not a very good defender. Yeah. You know, if you ask him to cross the road, you say, hold your mum's hands. That's how unassured you are about him. You just to make sure he gets to the other side because you're not sure what you're going to get. So it's not as that they're not playing a flat five. So what he'd have to do, he would have to have a midfield and pack the midfield out because there's not enough legs there. So that's the way to do it. I think what he can do, he's using that lad Collier, Toby Collier, quite a bit over games. There's something there what he quite likes. He's seen. I think he's got to start with him. Make a point of starting with him so everyone can see the reasons why he's brought him in. Because there's something there he likes. Because he keeps bringing him on early into the second half. So go and utilise it and let the fans see the reasons why. Maybe you've been taking off Mainu and you've been bringing him on. Go and show the reasons why you think he might be able to do a better job than Mainu. Go and show that. Go and do that and use the younger players. Use them. They've got the energy. They've got maybe the passion, desire to prove a point. This is the moment to do it. If you're having this is me talking maybe totally out of my comfort zone and maybe my expertise, but sometimes if you're not going forward as a manager and you've got a club with a tradition of Manchester United, what you do is that you start looking at what you've got below the younger players and you start using them because fans will bounce off the back of that because a lot of the fans, like Dave, will recognise the young players who are doing well below. And when he sees them step forward into the first team, Dave will go, wow. Yourself, Wayne, of course, will go, oh, I've heard about this lad. I like this because where he's come in, he hasn't been doing that well. That young lad comes on, he feels everyone behind him. And when he does well, and if the team are doing well as well, fingers crossed, everyone would go with the manager, well done. If it doesn't work out, everyone will go, well done, unlucky. Because they've seen that he's realised that the older pros are not good enough. In a way, it's going back in years to like Sir Alex when he brought through his young players. He got rid of established, experienced players and brought these young players in. Arms are going up, doing this. Arms were going up in the dressing room, by the way. We're kind of going, what's he doing? What's he doing? He can't do that. All of a sudden, bang, it pays off. And all of a sudden, people will do. And that is, for me, my little bit of throwing it in there with no experience at all in that, because it's, for me to say it is easy. To go and do it and hoping it comes off is another thing as a manager. But I just think he's got to maybe look what's below and say, I'm going to give him a go. Has he got his experience? No. Has he got his ability? Maybe. If he gets confidence, it will come through, because I've seen what I've liked in training. Then go and do it. But his younger players, they've got more energy. And the fans are gonna you're gonna raise the level of Old Trafford again, because they're gonna see young players. They thrive on young players coming through. Utilise it. That's what he should be doing. And somewhere along the line, I think he's edging towards that in a way. He just seems a very, very clever. There's something about him which I quite like when I'm watching him. The way he's on that touchline, the way he's so agitated, the way he moves around, and you can see he's always thinking, thank God he's not a manager who writes things down. Thank God he doesn't do that. This man has got a brain. He's like Sir Alex. He uses his heads rather than a bit of paper. Nothing worse than someone's talking to you off a bit of paper. If you go to an event and someone's reading off a bit of paper, you walk out because they're not focusing on you. So I think he's got to look there. There must be good young players or decent ones in there of 18, 19, 20 who are in there who've got something about them who can add more. Diallo was a late one. I blame Ten Hag for that. He tried to buy into doing something he felt he had to do with the wide players, but he had it wrong with the wide players. He's come in, he's gone, no, he's my wide player. He's produced that. Ahmad, he's producing, he's going to play. I'm focusing on him. Right decision. There must be someone else in his...
Yeah. No, sorry to interrupt. Just one quick one before you go. I just want to get on that statement that, he says the worst Manchester United team in history. Before, we've seen Rangnick said this team needs major surgery, threw loads of players under the bus. We saw Ten Hag as soon as he came in. He made a big example of Ronaldo. He made one of Sancho. He also did the thing after just the second game where he brought all the players in, after losing against Brentford, brought all the players into the cross-country run. this is a severe statement, right? So he can't say it again. Do you know what I mean? It's a very emphatic statement, so he's going to need to have a reaction. What kind of reaction can you hope for from that?
Well, I'm hoping that they're going to be they're going to be men about it. I think I can say that on there without anyone want to have a go at me, saying, but he's got to find out who the men are and what their reactions are going to be. Now, if that was said about me, I'd be sitting here, and I'd be really embarrassed. I'd be knowing that people outside of my house have seen that, and they've kind of had a little bit of a laugh, and they know everything that's gone on. And I think to myself, I need to get something back here. There's no excuse you can make up. Whatever you say, no, everyone's just going to, give you lip service or just nod their heads at you. You've got to go and prove it. And I know I saw something in the dressing room which was incredible between the manager and the player. Something absolutely incredible. I saw it at half time. And it was absolutely, player refused to go out. And the things he'd done during that period I thought, wow, go out in the pitch and we got 10 men. In the end, he comes trotting out, bang, bang, we go and win the game. We win the game. It was at such an important time in that season of winning that first Premier League. Comes in, and the manager, as he's walking in, the manager waits to everybody, shaking hand, pat round the back. This player comes in, and he virtually just said to him, I needed to do that to you to get you going, and you've gone and done it. That player looked like at one point he wanted to kill him, smiles, shakes his hand. For me, that's football. It's your job. You don't bear grudges. And that great man says, don't bear grudges. Don't bear a grudge until you can sort the problem out, and then you can deal with it. But until that time, don't bear grudges, because you just might need that person, that individual, until such time. He's just gone straight in there and he's asked a question. I'll be going into the treatment room as well and turn around and saying a few words to those players in there, because how many of them are sitting in that treatment room with something they could really play through, but won't go through that threshold because there's no one to push the manager. The manager cannot go in there and go in that. I mean, let's put it this way. Sir Alex used to come into the medical room at the cliff, and he'd walk in there and he'll go Jim McGregor. He'd go straight at Jim McGregor. How many of this dead wood are going to be worth me thinking about for the weekend? He called you dead wood. You were dead wood. And you never said anything. You didn't have a smile. You never come back and try and think you're going to be clever and get involved. You just thought, he's not happy. And he's not happy. How are managers happy when their job's on the line every game now in the Premier League, when they've got people sitting around and, and little things going on? You think to yourself, can you play through that? But he can't even really ask that, because that player might go to his agent and say, the manager tried to force me to play.
Yep.
Come on. It's just unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. And the thing about it, they've got all the majority of fans buying into it. I always pushed them too hard. Oh, he needs a rest. No, you need to be out there with your mate fighting that battle to win the war. At the moment, United are in a battle, and the war is fighting against relegation. Stupid as it sounds, and lucky enough, I got you in here, Wayne, so you fully understand it. You've gone on you've done films and books regarding the situation, and it's not far away. It's not far away. If things don't go the right way, it's not far away at all. So when I say it to people look at me and go, and I say to them, well, it happened 72, 73. It happened then. 6-7 years earlier, they won a European Cup, and all of a sudden they go, oh my God. They think about it. That's how quickly it can change. The margins are minimal. At this moment, this season, they're minimal. There's sides there, and it could just happen like that.
Yeah. There's 3 worst teams in the division, but 3 teams who are worse that could still play better than United. That's the worry about it. Well, that was the happy Paul Parker on Monday morning. So
it's great, Wayne. It was great. I think I've missed the last 3, so I do apologise. 2 or 3 anyway. But it's great to be back, and I'm coming. I've tried to smile early, but that lot yesterday ruined it for me. And so many of the old stuff come through. And all I'm saying is, get off the manager's back. He's been brought in for a reason. Everyone can see what I'm seeing, and he's good at what he does. He is good at what he does, but he's having to work with the same clowns as the previous managers had to work with. It's as simple as that. They're just not good enough, a lot of them. And all you want from anybody in any job is just to be honest and work hard and give everything for the person working next to you. They don't do it. They're not doing it. And I can do it. I can go and play, and I did it for so many years. We all did it as professional footballers. We play and we go and he's played well. When all of a sudden a glamour team comes into the picture, we play against them, and all of a sudden we're superstars. Everything we're doing, we go, wow, wow, wow. And then what happens next after that game's gone? You got all the plaudits, you got the big headlines, you cut them out, you stick them there, news of the world, this and that. And the following week you're playing, small team FC at home, small team FC who are fighting for their lives, just come along and bang, 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 they outplay you. Cool, he's quicker than me. Blimey, I should have won that tackle, but cool, he was a bit aggressive because they played against. So that's the problem. That is the problem. They don't know. A lot of us players don't understand what it is to play for Manchester United. That is the big, big difference, a massive, massive difference at this moment in time. Sir Alex, when he turned up, he understood that. So he went and found players who understood what it is to play for the club. He had big players there, big names, but they didn't have ambition. They had no ambition. All they were content to put on a jersey and get a slap on the back and say, "You play for United, don't you?" Yeah. Bang. There you are. Anyway, I'm going to go before I'm kicked off. Wayne's going to punch me out.
I would never do that. Have a great week, Paul. We'll catch up with you next week.
Okay. Cheers, Dave. See you later.
Cheers, Paul. Thanks.
Cheers, bye.
Dave. Okay, so Paul is quite right there. I mean, God, I don't even know how you follow that because he was so emphatic with everything. But I'll bring you back to the root of the statement. The worst team in Manchester United history, Ruben Amorim says. I know he's got to take a share of the blame for that now. I mean, it's only 7 or 8 months ago we were winning the FA Cup, and a year before winning the Carabao Cup and qualifying for the Champions League. So it's quite the catastrophic fall off. What a statement! What do you make of that? I mean, as long as we've been alive, we've seen some poor United sides, and he's probably got a point. But I mean, the worst.
Well, it's not the worst by far. It's been coached probably the worst by far that I've seen in a very, very long time. A manager that refuses to accept that his system won't work with these current players is the mind-blowing part of all this. He's a coach. He's there to get the best out of the players that he has. You can't just throw your arms in the air and cry about it that you haven't been given the players that you want when you've only come into the club 2 months ago. And you're 15 games in and the team is getting worse. It's going backwards. It's actually getting worse week by week because of this system. And listen, I've said this many times since he came in. I love that system. I really do. I really like it. But we don't have the players right now to play that system. So he needs to start earning his salary as a coach and start identifying players that can play some kind of system to start getting some wins on the board, because wins give them time. Wins build confidence.
Also, you do need a plan B. Every good manager.
And listen, I don't want to overly criticize the manager because many coaches down the years don't have a plan B. They don't, But sometimes their plan A gets them through 90% of the season. This is horrendous right now. And the fact that he's just stubborn about it and saying, and he even said it in the press conference yesterday, because he knows people are saying it. He said, "I'm not going to change the system. This guy will get us relegated if something doesn't change." And people may laugh at that, but we got our ass handed to us by Wolves. We got our ass handed to us by Southampton. The result was not a fair result. Yeah. So with bigger teams coming up, if he's as good a coach as we're led to believe he is, he needs to think about this and he needs to go, I just have to get a couple of wins on the board. That's all I need to get some momentum going. So I need to change this system. Because these, like I keep saying this and repeating this, Everyone's out there saying it's the players' fault. Well, yeah, of course it is, because they're out on the pitch. But they're playing in a system that they clearly cannot play in. So the manager has to take the blame for that. And if this was 4 games in, you could go, give it time. And I did. And I've given it 15 games now. And nothing, it's getting worse. It's not just all of a sudden these players are not going to go, oh, Jesus, yeah, that's what it means to play in a system like this. Yeah. He needs to change something. And it was a stupid statement yesterday. I don't know why he even said it. It felt like he was sulking already. He said, oh, well, you want your headline. That's normally a year and a half into the manager's, career at Manchester United where he reached that point. He doesn't seem to want to take the blame for anything. But this system is a problem. And he knows it's a problem because he brought it up in the press conference. His players can't play that system. So change it. You can't change the players. Because there's only 2 ways to fix this. You get the players that you want and you play that system, or you change it. But the only one that we can do right now is change it. Yeah. And I'm not asking him to blow it up. We have a centre forward, Hoyland, that can't jump. The guy just can't jump. It's insane. And then on to my favourite topic, Onana. It's shocking that he still gets picked every week. Mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. That's all he does. Now, people are saying that our backup goalkeeper, I won't try and say his name because I'll butcher it. I don't know why he's not playing. And people are like, oh, well, he's terrible. And Onana isn't. Onana is the worst goalkeeper I have ever seen at Manchester United that has played over, say, 10, 15 games. I know Taibbi's the first one to pop into your head, but he played a very short period. I even watched Jim Leighton. Jim Leighton was a good goalkeeper until the end. And then his confidence went, and that was it. This guy is a clown. He is the worst goalkeeper I've ever seen play for Manchester United. And I've been supporting him since the early 80s. And we've had some bad keepers. Now, people will mention Paddy Roach, but I didn't see him. But this guy is the worst goalkeeper. You and I had that discussion there the other week when we were at the game. When we're losing, he holds on to the ball for 30 seconds. Back and forward around them. It's insane. The crowd's getting on his back. The crowd's, when we're winning, he launches it every time he gets the ball. It makes no sense. The guy is clueless on how to be a goalkeeper. And we should bin him and we should use a reserve keeper because it can't be any worse. And people, like I said, people will say, well, he's terrible as well. Not as bad as this guy. This guy is consistently terrible. 2 of those goals yesterday were absolutely shocking. The third one, mind blown. But the second one, he never even came for it. He just watched the fly past him. I don't know what Dallo was doing, but Dallo gets a pass because he's crap. We all know that. It's absolutely, and it all falls on the manager's feet that he consistently picks him, and that's why we have a very, very nervous back 5. Yeah, because they're terrible where they give him the ball.
My concern is that this kind of talk. I mean, you would, if you're being generous, you're going to say, all right, well, you need 6 players then to play in that. You need 6 new players to play in that system. So that means you need to invest somewhere between 200 and 300 million in the summer. Money we clearly don't have. We clearly don't have it because of the financial setup of the club at the moment. So you're asking him to work miracles with that. Even then, you're saying, even if you had your first choice, most of this is the second string, right? Even if you had a different first choice, most of this is the second string, and this is what we expect. This is what we can expect if we have a few injuries, because you turn over for the squad, all those players aren't going to be fit for every single game. And you are going to have moments where you're going to need to call upon these players. And my concern is not so much with the accuracy of the statement, it's with the fragility of the mentality of the squad that you say something like that. Yeah. What do you achieve? What do you achieve with it, really? I don't know, because, you're not going to make them suddenly play better in the system. That can't happen. You're not going to change your system. You've said that. Like I said, the answer is changing the players from what you've got available. And I still don't think that's, I see what Paul's getting at. Probably the most honest way of doing that is to put in players like Collier, players who aren't good enough. But then how many times have we been there when we've seen Paddy McNair and Tyler Blackett and Tim Fosu-Mensah, I thought was great for a run of games, but he was there as a placeholder to make a point by by Van Gaal. And then you see McTominay was used as an example by Mourinho for a little while. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't there he wasn't there to say this is a player we're investing in. He was there to make a point, And you don't want the young players to be used like that because that's not good for their careers as well. It's just, I feel like the solution that the manager is saying is something that is not reasonable to expect at this moment in time. I mean, from a normally operating football club that has, like freedom of financial expression, away from, being able to bring in players that they're not hampered by these kind of rules and regulations and the massive debt that's on the club, and they're not impacted by the wrong transfer or the bad transfers that came before. Do you know what I mean? He's asking for a solution that's just not possible.
But do you think Ineos got it wrong by bringing this guy in? Because obviously they had to have done their homework on him. They would have looked at him and seen the system that he plays, and they would have looked. If you're a well-run football club, which we obviously aren't at this moment in time, when you look at a manager like him that plays that system, and then you look at your own players, did no one say, listen, these guys can't play that way, so it's going to cost us an awful lot of money to actually get him to play the way, to get him the team that he wants?
Well, that's the question, right?
So the question is, did they make a mistake in bringing him in?
Well, the two questions really, well, three. First of all, should they have sacked Ten Hag? Second, when?
I believe yes.
Well, yeah, all right. Well, second is, when should that have happened then? Because then you go to summer and the ability to bring in players, and the third one is, do they, you have to trust the accuracy of judgment of anyone, right, who's making those decisions. And like you said, it's there open for debate over Amorim, because the point is now they have to back him. They have to back him, or they either back him in a way that doesn't seem feasible or even practically financially responsible right now, or which is, again, a gamble. Even if you said, you have £300 million for the players, if that system still doesn't work after he's got the players, then you are stuck with players who are system specific and not ready for the next manager.
We've just gone through that with the transition of Ten Hag to him. But my question is, would you trust this guy with £300 million? Well, some of the decisions he's made this season already have me doubting whether we should be even giving him money, because he just consistently plays that system which doesn't work and gets him his ass handed to him. He plays a goalkeeper that at least every other game has a major incident in regard to throwing the ball into the net. Yeah. And as you know, goalkeepers aren't immune to making mistakes, but most goalkeepers will make one or two a year. We see it all the time. This guy makes one or two a month, and nobody seems to give a shit. The management just seems, let's play him again next week. There's no repercussions for this goalkeeper when he makes mistakes. It's mind blown he's made it this far as a professional goalkeeper. I'm really, and I'm not trying to be bad, but it is, when I watch him and I'm like, what is he actually doing right now? We're 2-0 down. What was that game? The Forest game. That whole free kick debacle at the end of it. What the fuck was he doing? It was like, it's supposed to be here, is it? I'll take it back. Okay, I'll take it from here. He knew that the ball was 5 yards ahead of where it should have been. And he spent at least a minute of extra time messing around with that. The guy is clueless. He hasn't got a brain. Bird brain. That's what he is. He's terrible. He shouldn't be in the team. And I blame Amorim for consistently picking him. So now you're saying to yourself, do you really want to give this guy 300 million? If he thinks that guy should be our number one, 15 games in, he still hasn't sussed him out. The guy's terrible. He's horrendous.
Well, it depends whether or not some of that money is spent on replacing him, right? Then you've got your answer. I don't know.
Well, you got to ask yourself, though, if he thinks he's good enough for Manchester United week in, week out, who's he going to buy in? I mean, they keep going on about this guy that was in that played from his Sporting Lisbon, the guy that was on loan to Coventry.
Gyökeres. Look. Yeah, look, I'm we're all here. We're all in the same point, aren't we? We're all wondering whether or not we can trust the judgment of either the manager or, you know what I mean? Because the question on Ineos is like, if they make a decision some point in the season to get rid of the manager already, then you're already questioning their long-term vision, because that'll be two major decisions that they've made where you are having to invest your faith in, and you don't have a choice as a fan. You do have to invest your faith in what they're doing is the right thing.
I got a question for you. Sorry, Wayne, real quick. Sorry. Fulham away, Palace at home, Tottenham away are our next 3 league games. If he loses all 3, which at this moment in time, I think he will, do we still go into March with him as the manager? Think about that.
I don't know, mate. You know, I'm just.
Would you like to see him still go into March as our manager if we lose those 3 games?
I don't want to advocate for change that many times in the season. Do you know?
I
know where you're coming from. I'm not, but I won't sit here. I'll never sit here and say you should, unless it's something that's so obvious. You know, yeah, I get it. I get every concern. I do not disagree with every concern. I'm the one voicing them as much as anyone, that it feels like we've regressed. You know, I don't know, Dave. I don't know. I feel sad at the way that the team is playing at the moment. There's no progression. There's no, even when you look at the system, there's nothing that you even invest. You say, well, that's working. You know, it's not saying the system's working to say that Ahmad's playing well. It means that one player is playing well in that system, and we're over relying on him. Because let's be fair, I know we can say, we blame Ten Hag for the development of Ahmad beforehand, but
you know what? I don't blame Ten Hag. Managers can get it wrong with players. It comes and goes. You know, Manchester United have had many players down the years that you know have left and had even better careers after they left Manchester United. I don't blame Ten Hag for that. He just didn't see something in him and someone else does. And I mean, look at the time Marcus Rashford broke into the team. He was nowhere near the team until injuries happened, and we were forced to play him. And then look what happened. He had it. You know, the first part of his career was very, very exciting. I don't blame him for that. But if we continue with this system, we're going to see days like we did at the weekend. And yeah, I mean, Johnny, yeah, I mean, if a centre forward is playing bad, he gets dropped, and he probably doesn't play again if he's not scoring. Unfortunately, we're in an era now where managers do get hired and fired a lot quicker. But the reason I'm saying that, I believe they got it wrong, and I was a big fan of this guy when we came in initially, but it just hasn't worked, is what you pointed out earlier on, Wayne. In order for this system to work, he's probably going to, Paul said as well, he's probably going to need 6 or 7 players, of his own players, okay? I'm a little bit weary about giving him a lot of money, to be honest. So how long is it going to take us to buy those 6 or 7 players? It's going to take at least 2 summers with the way, you know, our financial situation is. Could even take 3. Are we willing to go 3 years with results like the weekend and barely hanging on while he puts his team together? It's not going to happen. That's not the way it is. It's unfortunate managers get hired and fired so quickly now. You know, it's not the football we grew up with, but I'm just being a realist here. This is not going to work with this guy. It's not. They got it wrong.
On that happy note, I thought Paul
Happy Monday.
Paul was grumpy, but Dave's even worse. I thought we were losing the grumpy one. All right, so I'm not in the best mood myself, to be honest. Johnny says, "Man worries Amorim will be sacked because he won't have the time to win games. Play now we are. I feel sick."
And I feel the exact same way. It'll make a joke of us. Imagine having to sack him in, let's say, March. Let's say we go through the whole of February getting beaten, which is quite possible, you know. And we sack him. It just churns my stomach. It really does. It's like, what have we become? But at the end of the day, that's the way this is. That's the way football is turned right now.
Well, what we've become, apparently, according to the manager, is the worst.
Bring back Ron Atkinson. I'll take back Big Ron.
Yeah. Well, those are the days. These are the days. So yeah. what we are at the moment is, according to the manager, the worst Manchester United team in history. So let's
Which
hope
makes him the worst manager in history. I want to point that out there. Can't just say the team is terrible.
Okay. Right. We'll be back next week, guys. Hopefully we will be talking about 2 wins. Let's be trying optimistic about this, but it's also be realistic as well. I hope everyone listening and watching is well. Thanks for sticking with us. I know it's difficult, but it's nice for Paul and Dave to get an opportunity to vent out their spleens on a Monday morning. We'll be back next week. Stay safe, stay well, and thanks for listening and watching.